Actually, my topic today is, I like to call it more of a design than development, but it is very important for developers. Let's explore how is that. Before I start as well, I'd like to remind you about this website, this cool website, if you want to ask me questions. Now I understand why they made this website, because it's impossible to see your hands. So if you have questions, don't forget to join this website to ask in room number 10. So I think I'm ready to start. So should we start? Yes. All right. So again, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining me today in the second day of GeeCON, or GeeCON, as some people like to call it, right? So my name is Mahdi. I work for Vaden as a developer advocate. And the best way to reach me afterwards is Twitter, but I'm going to be hanging around if you have other questions. So as I told you, my topic today is more of a design concept, but also it is mainly for developers. It's nice to know about it. It's nice to experience it from design point of view, but we're going to see that all the design magic will happen automatically by the browser. So what is this all about? I will start by telling you a little story of myself. I was traveling to this planet called America, and I landed in Austin Airport. And yeah, it's a very nice airport, and you know, I live in Finland, by the way, so I forgot to tell you this. Coming from Finland and getting used to, like, you know, either walking or taking bus and public transport, I thought maybe there should be a way to go to my hotel room from the airport using public transport. So I decided to connect to the internet in the airport, and I decided to check out what are the available bus routes and so on. I found this nice application called Cap Metro, and as description says, if I download this application, I will be able to buy a bus ticket, and then I just scan this bus ticket in the bus, and magic happens. So I don't need to even deal with money. I don't need to pay or anything. I just charge my application online, and my application on the phone, and that's it. Time was around 5:23 p.m. when this started, and buses are running every 30 minutes. So I have like 7 minutes left for the next bus to catch it. And if you think about 7 minutes, like, you have plenty of things that you definitely can do in 7 minutes. Think about it. It's a lot of time. You can definitely buy a bus ticket in 7 minutes, right? So the first step that happened with me is downloading the application. This is a true story, by the way. So when I started to download the application, it told me that it's 18 megabyte. Now, when I say 18 megabyte with nowadays technology and storages and all these kind of things, 18 megabyte is not a big deal, isn't it? So it's not going to be a big problem to wait for 18 megabyte to be downloaded, even though the internet was not that good, as you can see, but still, it should be fine. And then when I downloaded the application and I installed it and I allowed all the permissions on earth, I was greeted with this kind of screen that's telling me you can sign up with Facebook or Google, or here down it says you can sign up with email address. If you are like myself and you know the experience of signing up with an email address on a mobile phone is not that great, like going and typing your first name, last name, password, confirm password, all these kind of things, I don't like to do that. So I really appreciated that they provided me with alternative options for signing up, even though it doesn't look that great design-wise, but that's perfect. So I thought about signing in with Facebook. But it wasn't actually as I expected. So because it's a separate application, it's not connected with my browser. So I am a person who does not have a Facebook installed on his phone, which means that it doesn't pop up automatically sign in into Facebook. If I am on a browser, it will pull up the data from the saved password on my browser. But unfortunately, because it's a separate application, then I need to figure out what is my username and password on Facebook, which is something that I don't know. So I had to flip around, go to the browser, search for passwords, and figure out what is the saved password for Facebook. And also, of course, go to the next step of validation and two-step verification and waiting for SMS to arrive and so on and so forth. This all went great, and then the next step was to add a card. So apparently the fact of entering and filling a form is inevitable. I have to reach the point of holding my credit card and holding the phone and then try to copy 16 digits one by one. And then my billing address, my home address, my name is again, and I don't know, my expiration date, not my expiration, but the card expiration date, right? So all these kind of things, I had to fill them all, and then I had to do that again and again on the application. If you think about nowadays forms, if I'm talking about payment or if I'm talking about sign-up form, all these kind of forms are just frustrating. On average, it takes more than 100 taps on your mobile phone. You might not feel it, but it takes a lot of time to go over a sign-up process and payment process to just get through with them. And sometimes, if we're talking about the developer, then it's very, very frustrating for a developer as well. How many views and how many combination of options the developer need to take care of. They need to take care of signing in, forget password, signing in with alternative options, and even entering wrong data. So sometimes you have a very specific, strict rules on how the data should be entered, and then you find yourself entering different formats of data. So how to deal with all of those kind of things? From developer point of view, frustrating, and from user point of view, it is also frustrating. So back to my story, 7 minutes later, I think you imagine what happened. I found the clock is exactly 6:01. This is a true story. I didn't miss only one bus, I missed 2 buses. And I didn't waste only 30 minutes or something like that. I wasted 1 hour and 7 minutes to be able to take a bus. I could have taken an Uber, right? I mean, that was my experience, my little experience trying to use technology, trying to use application, trying to just get through this frustration. I'm not complaining about the bus system in Austin. Actually, as a matter of fact, if you live in Austin, probably this mobile app is perfect for you. You will go over this frustration maybe once, you will enter your data, you will save your data inside the application, and then you will have your application installed on your mobile phone and use it forever. Whenever you go in the bus, you just tap, and then it will work. So that's perfect for someone who is living in Austin, maybe. But for someone like me, I was the wrong audience for this application. To continue the frustration, when I went to the hotel 1 hour later, they suggested me that if I install their application, I will be able to open the door quickly and don't have to, I get notifications and points and all these kind of things. And because I was super tired, I wasted almost 2.5 hours, I told them don't you guys have these plastic cards that just go in the door and opens and I sleep directly? I'm not a technology guy, I just want to sleep. Imagine how many applications we find nowadays that don't really need to be installed, don't really need to be on a native application. For example, myself here, I'm a tourist here, and I want to eat pizza. What do you think I'm gonna do? Do you think I'm gonna go to App Store and search pizza in Krakow? Awesome. But it's less likely I'm not intuitively gonna go to App Store and search pizza in Krakow, right? Probably I'm gonna go to a search engine and then search there. Is that correct? So if you want to think from business point of view, the likelihood of your audience to reach you if you have a good website is way higher and less costly than trying to reach your audience from a native application. Remember that your user usually don't care. If you developed your application with C++, assembly, Kotlin, all this fancy stuff, your user doesn't care. Your user wants something that just works. Your user wants to search online, for example, find a link, click on the link, get to the pizza, order the pizza, get it home. So what I'm trying to talk about today is how the web has evolved very nicely to tackle all those side problems, the so-called progressive web apps. So progressive web apps is a concept that I like to define it as going hand-free, one thumb to do everything. So getting rid of forms, getting rid of frustration, getting rid of filling anything on the mobile device, just do everything just with one hand and one thumb. Many topics to talk about, but today I'm gonna only focus on payment APIs. And probably you can mirror that and see it also from other perspectives like authentication and forms and signups and so on. So what is the background? The background from payment specifically is that they found that 66% of purchases are done on the web. But then the return rate, people are dropping from their mobile application by 66% rate, and then we think that probably they just go to the desktop and continue there. Why? Because it's just frustrating. You have to like figure out what credit card to use, how to exactly choose the item, is it the correct item for me, and so on. And then probably excuse me? Okay, so so you probably find yourself, okay, I'm gonna just switch to the desktop and continue there, or you just like cancel the whole thing and change your mind. So what we want to do is basically to tackle this problem, the problem of abandoning the purchase on the web, and also integrate the new technology that is introduced by the modern web that we have nowadays. Can I make an assumption that everyone here know what is progressive web app, or someone does not know? Okay, so there are some people who don't know what is progressive web app. So progressive web app is something that Google came up with, yet another acronym that Google came up with, which is basically a concept for enhancing the experience on the web by setting a set of, I like to call them a checklist items that you put inside your application, after which you will get higher features inside your application with the help of the browser. What that means is that instead of, for example, you implementing a lot of features and a lot of redundant modules that are used across many applications, you will just declare yourself as a progressive web app, and then the browser will do the rest of the work for you. That include making your application feels like native, make your application installable inside the mobile and inside the desktop, and many much more things, like integration with other features, such as what we're gonna see now, which is payment. So if you have a web application nowadays, the good news is you do not need to really rewrite the code. It's not a new programming language, it's not a new framework or anything like that. I like to say that it's a checklist of items. You just bring them, you probably have half of them already implemented, and you just need some other items to be implemented, and then your application will be a perfect progressive web app. Yeah, so back to the payment model. Let's dig deeper a little bit and take a closer look at how the process goes right now. So now the problem. It's manual, a lot of work, it's tedious. You need to do a lot of things to be able to fill the form, and it is, of course, very slow. Oh. So one approach was autocomplete. So any of you know what is autocomplete attribute? Okay, only the front row, or maybe someone, I cannot see the back. But yeah, so autocomplete. So autocomplete was introduced many, many years ago, which is a way to tell the browser that this specific field is meant to fill that specific information. Now you'll tell me, okay, I never used the autocomplete attribute and it just works. Yes, browsers try to be smart, try to guess what this field is for, even if you don't use the autocomplete attributes. But then I like to show you that there is actually a standard specification that tells you exactly how to specify each field with each attribute. For example, here I have the first name, and then I have something property called autocomplete equal cc-name, and then cc-number, and so on and so forth. So you can help the browser and be very, very specific. This field is exactly for the first name, and this field is exactly for the expiration date, and so on, to make sure that it's going to be accurate, or just rely on the luck of yourself and that the browser going to fill everything for you automatically. I need to be here. So what this autocomplete attributes does for us, it's making the process a little bit more automatic, because you no longer need to really fill everything. If you have filled them previously on previous web application, then all you have to do is to just select. It's making it less tedious. It's more simple now. You just fill the form, but it is still slow, because after all, it's a form. And again, if you have multiple users, or you have multiple addresses, or multiple credit cards, then what you do is you fill the form, and then you go over every single field to make sure that it has been filled correctly, and then make modifications again, and then go over one by one, item one by one, till you make sure everything is correct. And sometimes if you correct something in the bottom of the form, things get messed up on top, right? So you still need to like fix that as well. So it's a very good step forward to fix things, but we didn't stop at that point. Here we decided to, not me, I mean, I'm talking here, of course, on behalf of the Web Manifesto Committee that is including Google, Microsoft, Mozilla, Apple, and many, many other big companies that are like putting the specifications for the web. And when I say putting specification for the web, it means literally standardizing how a browser should be. So if a browser nowadays does not support payment request APIs, we can freely call it not a browser. Just exactly, if a browser does not support HTML, it's not a browser, right? So nowadays, in our days today, if a browser does not support payment request APIs, we can call it, it's not a browser. So this is how it looks exactly. The end result gonna be one tap away. You might have guessed what is a thing going on behind the hood. We're visiting the website for the first time, and then it's gonna ask us this question of filling the form. So there is no escape from that. Chances are, if your browser is synchronized across multiple devices and you have already filled your form on a desktop, then you will not need to go over this hassle. Nevertheless, when you next time visit a website, any website, and you have already allowed your browser to store your credit card information, your shipping address, your billing address, and so on, then all you can do is, with just one hand, tap multiple times, and then you're done. Now, can you see the link between design and development here? What I'm trying to show you here is, if you are a developer, good news, you will have to only write very few lines of code, and the browser will help you. So all what you can see here is done by the browser. The browser has done the job for you of managing forms and validation and making sure that the form is standard and so on. From design point of view, that's unification across applications. So you get the best design ever just because you are adopting modern standards in your application. So what are the biggest benefits? It's native, cross application, and the user will be familiar with it. And of course, it can be synchronized across multiple devices. So you do not need to refill this information and again. You just let the browser do the magic for you. In terms of browser support, as I told you, it is nowadays supported by all what we can call a browser. And even Safari is supporting it fully. And as you can see, it also supported through Apple Pay. So, coding-wise, how it works. The first part of this code, as you can see, yeah, you can see the code, right? So the first part of this code, as you can see, is checking if payment request is supported or not. That's just a coding practice that we still need to do for now, for some reason, if your user is still using a very old browser or something. But then, in the else block, what we do is just trying to enter the data for the payment request. So how this code look like? First of all, we initialize the payment request object, and we give it an array of supported payment methods. When I say basic card, it means a basic credit card, basically. So we say that I support a basic credit card, or if you are on Chrome and Android, you can also add Android Pay. More about that later, why only Android Pay is supported so far. And then you need to specify the label of what should be displayed for the user. So here I'm specifying that this is the total payment that you have to pay, and the amount is in USD $60. Now what you can guess from here is that the payment request APIs will not do the calculations for you. You cannot expect the payment request API to sum or subtract numbers for you. Whatever you display is whatever you want the user to see. The payment request APIs are not a gateway. They will not process the payment for you. It is just an implementation of the front end forms of payment and collecting credit card information. And at the end of the day, we want the end result is to take this credit card information and send it to the back end. And here is other things that you can probably add into the form or the UI. For example, what are the items, the breakdown of the items, and so on. From design point of view, we recommend that you keep it to the minimal. You just add like the final items. You don't have to break down every single thing because it's a very small form and we don't want the user to scroll over it and so on. And this is my little demo. So here I'm requesting a payment request equals new payment request, and then calling payment request.show. And then because I have a credit card pre-filled inside my browser and I have all the data already selected, then all I have to do is just click pay. When you click edit, if you want, you can actually select a different credit card if you want to pay with something different, or you can add extra credit cards if this is what you want. So did I implement any of that? No, that's a gift from the browser. So the browser gifted me this interface that does all the job and checks for me. Now you click pay, and then you can actually, so when you click pay, the only things that still need to be filled as of right now is the CVC code. That's for security reasons. Browsers did not decide to give away this little information, which is 3 numbers on the back of your card, and you still have to fill it every single time. Later on, should be able to use Face ID or fingerprint to fill this instead of filling the CVC code. So even one more step to automate the process. So again, I'd like to remind you that it's only a way to collect the payment information. It's not a gateway. It will not process the data. Your user need to understand that what they say is an alternation to the classical form. Instead of you as a developer to build a lot of forms, we ask the browser to show up a form for us. Now, when I click pay, you can capture the process of payment, take the data to the back end, and then process it in the back end, make sure that the credit card is actually valid, make sure that you can actually take the amount mentioned, do the job, and then you can go back to the front end and return with either success message or failure message, or if the user cancel at any point, then you can cancel the whole process. So before I go to the demo, I want to go back a little bit to the applications that I mentioned, 18 megabyte. So I told you that 18 megabyte is not a big deal, right? It's actually a lie. If you think about it, would you go to a website like mywebsite.com, for example, and then when you open mywebsite.com, it tells you, please wait till 18 megabyte is downloaded and then I will show you the content of the website? No, right? So here is the big thing about progressive web apps. From the name progressive, it's progressively understanding what the user needs. So what the user needs at the beginning is to see the pizza. And then when I select the pizza, the next step is to select my payment method. And then the third step is to select my shipping address. So progressively understanding the user. Maybe I will go to the website and I don't need to do anything with this website and then go back to the search results, right? So this is also one of the biggest differences between having a native application and a web-based application. Now, I'm not telling you that native applications are dead or going anywhere. I'm just trying to show you the differences between sometimes you don't really need to go the extra mile of downloading and installing a native application when you can just have everything on the mobile. So let's go quickly to my demo and show you what I have for you today. So you can read this. So this is actually like, I would say, documentation of everything that I tried to mention today. But the interesting part, how many of you are Java developers? Okay, that was a hard question. So how many of you is not Java developer? None. Okay, interesting. Except of yourself, of course. You're not a developer. Okay. So here my documentation or my tutorial is mainly focusing on how to actually get things done, especially on Java. But the good news is I used some technique called web component to make it available even if you're not a Java developer. So how many of you heard about web component? Yeah, web components. Interesting. So web components, well, from the name, it's a component for the web, but it's not just like that. Web component is a standard way of developing components that are cross-framework. So nowadays, we find people that are, for example, React developers, and they build components for React. And then some other people are Angular developers, and they build components for Angular. And then you find the same component built different way, and they are doing the same job, and then they cannot be interoperable. You cannot use them across frameworks. So the thing about web component is, again, it's a standard, which means that it's a standard way of defining a component that can be used in pure HTML, in your preferred framework, whether it's jQuery, React, Angular, Vue, you name it, it will work. So this is one of the practices that I like to use nowadays, which is basically when I started to build this demo, I abstracted everything into a web component. And then I placed the web component on the web, which means that any of you can use it right now. And then later on, if you decide to continue, for example, with my demo in Java, you can use it. But if you want to continue with Angular, for example, you still can use it as well. So just an introduction. And then here I'm showing you how to actually insert. So this is a GitHub repository on, let's open it in a new window. But yeah, this is showing you how to use it, insert it as a Maven dependency, and then this is how to actually use it. So I have encapsulated the web component inside a Java wrapper, and then it's just like any Java code. You define a payment method. Remember when I was defining the payment method in JavaScript? Now you don't need to do that anymore. You define it inside Java. You add the supported as basic card. You set the description, like for example, item number 1 in euro, and the amount. You can set, you can add it in the total slot. You can add a buy button, and then you can add a total label with value euro. And then finally, the payment request, the actual payment request, I start to add it inside the browser and then add it inside the layout. As simple as that. So this is a GitHub project. And as you can see, I'm just trying to abstract in every single part of the web component into a Java class. So I'll leave this for you to check it out and see how, for example, I encapsulated, for example, a web component inside a Java class and exported as public APIs so that I can use it within the Java APIs. And just to give you a hint, I have not really built everything here from scratches. I used the help of the community. So I found that there is actually a web component that was already implemented, and then I built on top of it. Should be here. So in this tutorial, we will take a web component. So I took this web component, which is not developed by me. It's developed by the community. And you can see that I added a very small fix to it, but you can see that it's basically a pure web component that you can use. So payment request. So this gives you an idea about what is web component. It's a markup that you can use it just like any HTML inside your browser, and it will just work. Actually, this is, yeah. So this is explaining how to use it, and this is how to use it. For example, if you don't want to use it the Java way, you can use it just like that inside your HTML or inside, for example, an Angular project. So to move forward, I'll show you the demo. So I have the project downloaded here. So this is a project, the GitHub project that I just showed to you, and then I'm gonna just start it up into a Jetty container. So Maven run Jetty. Here we go. And oh, sorry, it's Jetty run. I didn't sleep well, or I didn't have enough coffee, I think. Yeah, now it makes more sense. What is that? So now it's very simple thing running here in my local browser. Just a buy button. So all the code that I wrote is just showing this buy button. Before I show you what this button does, let's inspect it and see how it looks like from inside the DOM tree. So here we go. This is the item, payment request, and then payment request. It's a simple markup. The fact that you can see inside the shadow root of this document is because I'm in development mode. But normally, if you expose this inside for a normal user who is not a developer, they will just see one line called payment request / payment request. But since I am a developer and I need to debug this code and I want to see inside what's going on, then I break it down and I can see that it consists of a payment method, a payment item, another payment item, and then a button, right? And you probably at this point can guess what's inside the payment item, for example. It's just a text. Well, this one is empty. Yeah, actually all of them are empty. And yeah, all of them are empty because those are informations that are given to the payment request. So I'm giving it the information that it's a standard card, or I'm giving it the information on what to display. But then the button, for example, has the text inside it that displays buy. All right? So we don't need to go deeper inside the component itself, but then again, this is a button. Now we close this and we go as a user and we click on the button. What will happen? It will show us this form. If you have a very good design eye, you will see that this form is not part of my inner browser. It's actually popping on top of my browser. So as I told you, it's a feature that the browser is giving to me. It's giving me this option without really writing any single code from my point of view. So it tells me order summary, the labels that I requested, which is item 1, the amount that I requested, which is 1337, and then the second label, which is total, and then in euro, and so on. And then it tells me where is your credit card, so I need to add a new credit card information. So this is going to be the experience if you are first time ever user of this service. Now, anyone want to contribute his credit card or her credit card to put it in the demo? So credit card generator, fake generator. Yeah, here we go. We have now a credit card that has a CVC 629. So let's add it. Demo card. Anyone remembers when it expires? 8/2020. So August 2020. Billing address. Well, any of my addresses. Oh, no. So now I can also add another address if I want, but I'm just going to select one of my pre-saved address, and then I click pay. So now it's asking me for the CVC. Was it 692? 629? Well, I don't care anyway. So what you can see is that my code, my demo code is just telling that the server has received this information. So anyone who wants to copy the credit card, here is the credit card information. Take a picture quickly. So my server just show you, this is the information that I got on the back end. And now I'm exposing it on the front end. All right, so what else? Yeah, so eventually if you go ahead and try this exact demo from your mobile device, you will see a prettier interface, as I showed you in the GIF before, and it looks much better, and it supports the idea of like just one tap, go forward to pay everything. All right, so let's go back to the slides and discuss the challenges. So as of right now, we have a few challenges with this method, even though it's standard and supported in our browsers and all these kind of things. Now, some developers will come and tell me, hey, I'm not really collecting the credit card information myself. I'm directing my user to a third-party vendor who is collecting the data himself, right? So how to deal with that? Unfortunately, as of right now, there is no solution. The only solution, for example, you are using Stripe. So you go to Stripe and tell them, please support the standard web payment APIs to enhance the experience for my user. Now, you as a developer, you will redirect to Stripe, and then Stripe will be responsible about showing this kind of standard form and make the payment easy for the user. So this is one thing that is not really supported. And now another thing that is not fully supported, which is multi-factor authentication. Many credit cards nowadays ask, for example, to send an SMS verification or open an application verification and so on. And as of right now, this is not possible through this form. We need to unify also how this authentication mechanism can happen, or at least go through the biometric authentication and give it direct to the credit card provider. So the user do not really have to do this multi-factor authentication if all they have to do is just to use their finger or their Face ID. Now, some work in progress. For example, changing the label, pay. Remember this blue label that says pay? It is localized, so you can change it based on your local language. But unfortunately, you cannot change it to any other word. You cannot say, for example, add card. Think about Amazon. You used Amazon before? So Amazon does not really allow you to just pay directly. It tells you store the credit card inside our servers, and then later on select the credit cards that you want to pay with. So the storing phase, where you want to enter your credit card and then at the end say insert card or save card. You don't want to say pay because it's not pay yet. Another thing that I promised to talk about, which is integration with native options. So I told you that Google Pay is the only thing supported as of right now, and that's only because Google is moving very fast forward with this, and they supported it fully on Android, running Chrome and Android. They are together can support the Android Pay, but this is not the only way to pay, right? So some people like to use Samsung Pay or Apple Pay, or maybe, I don't know, your local bank here that has a local application, and you want your bank to open up the bank application and pay through your bank directly, right? So integration with native option is still a work in progress that we need to figure out how it can be standardized. Also, one very good request that a lot of people want is to be able to add coupons or vouchers. So you want to add a discount before clicking pay. You want an extra label that applies a code for discount, for example. And also, nonetheless, validation is lacking here. So as you can see, I managed to enter a credit card. What the form is doing is only validating that the credit card is in a good format. It's a valid credit card. But it doesn't tell me if this is a fake credit card or not. So I can end up in a process where, like exactly what I did now, I entered a fake account and it went through to the server. So there is no way to ask the form to make sure that this credit card is actually valid and go check before coming to my server. Now, we have seen, for example, Google Pay has made a very interesting progress into tackling this. This has been in market for a few years now. And while this is a very excellent solution, a button that you can just add inside your browser, and then, excuse me, and then it will just show you the payment and will go over those processes automatically. What we wish for is to actually get rid of these kind of buttons. Why? Because, again, from design point of view, you don't want to show inside your browser, pay with Google, or pay with Samsung, or pay with Stripe, or pay with Apple, or and so on. So you don't want to scroll over a huge list of buttons. And we don't want to do the hard work as a developers. We don't want to check what is the kind of software, what is the kind of supported hardware, what is the kind of browser, and make all the combinations of all the possible buttons that can be displayed for the user. So the standard way is, in summary, a way to get rid of a vendor-specific payment and go forward to a standard way of unifying the payment process. So maybe Google Pay is very excellent for now to bridge the gap and do some things in the process, but ultimately we hope that the standard payment process will take over. The standard web payment APIs is not competing with PayPal or Stripe. It's a way to actually integrate PayPal inside it and integrate Stripe inside it, integrate any possible payment in the market to be able to integrate it in the form. So if you are working for Stripe, we hope that one day we can see Stripe as available options. Instead of paying with my credit card, pay with PayPal, for example. And if you remember, we started with the process, with the problem of we are losing users. Users abandon the website, they don't pay. So this is a way to tackle this problem, have a greater user experience that make the user actually perform the pay option. So now a little bit about myself. As I said, I work for Vaden. Anyone heard about Vaden before? 2, 3? Okay, so actually Vaden, this little reindeer, stands for reindeer in Finnish. We're a Finnish company and we're based in Finland, but we have offices in many regions around the world. And oh, I missed a slide. Okay, and basically what I want to say is we are, as you can see, we are an open source company interested in web front-end technologies. At this point, I hope if you have any question, you have added to Slido already. So I'll jump quickly and see if there are any. Yeah, there are. Nice. So the first question, do you find storing all CC data except CVC in your browser secure? And it got 3 thumbs up. Okay, so excellent question. Okay, so I would say this is this is a process of between you and the browser. Can you trust your browser or not? It can be the browser, it can be any other app. So, for example, let's take Apple Pay. You are also storing your credit card information inside Apple Pay. So is storing credit card inside Apple Pay secure or not? You are just trusting Apple and trusting that Apple has built good stuff to be able to manage this. So if you decided to store your credit card information inside Firefox, for example, then you're just trying to trust Firefox and trying to make life easier. I like to mention this interesting observation. For example, if you want to be fully secure, what we will do is basically I will walk around with a metal suit just so that I cannot get hit by anyone. But for my convenience, I don't do that, and I just like take the risk. Okay, I mean, like, I don't really have to be in a metal suit. I'll take the risk for my convenience to be able to move around and jump and do everything. So more or less, it's similar. You will trust Firefox, you will trust Chrome, you'll trust Safari to do the job for you, and then hopefully they know what they are doing. One more thing about Apple. If you are on Apple device, the good news is everything is stored actually inside your Apple Pay. So it's not stored in Safari, it's not stored in a third vendor. Now, another question, are there plans to replace other forms, not just payment in this way? Excellent question. Yes, it is already replaced now. So as I said at the beginning, I cannot discuss everything, but it is more or less the same process. Authentication, sign up, sign in, registration, all those forms are now replaceable. The ideal ultimate solution is to be able to tap and do everything for all those redundant operations. And also for you as a developer, you don't really need to go over implementing all those hundreds of forms again. Does data sent via request are encrypted somehow? Excellent question again. It will not allow you to use payment request APIs if you're not on HTTPS. I forgot to mention that. So PWA, when I say PWA, any PWA feature require you that you have an HTTPS connection. If you don't have any HTTP connection, all the PWA features will not work. None of them. So this is a way to make sure that there is a secure channel between you and the back end. Have you ever used add-in web SDK payment? No. So I'm not sure what is that exactly. May we see your Twitter username again, please? Yeah, sure. So here we go. I think I'm literally running out of time. So this is my Twitter again. I'll be hanging around today and tomorrow. Please reach me via Twitter or via myself. I'd love to chat with you a little bit more. Again, thank you so much for attending. Enjoy the rest of the conference.